Hi, we're Team 16 and our extension is Penn Course Search Plus. So, kind of our problem statement is that Penn students often struggle to choose courses based on like incomplete data, peer advice, and inefficient workflows. And tools like Penn Course Search help. That's the original extension that we added on to. But sort of the lack of intelligent decision making support is an aspect we wanted to add on to. And so our motivation was that we wanted to build a tool that transforms course selection into a faster, more informed, and less stressful experience.
So our solution is an enhanced Chrome extension that integrates GPT-powered insights for course selection summaries and comparisons, as well as visual and interactive UI for comparisons and selections, and a personal savable note-taking feature. And this was all built on top of the original Penn Course Chrome extension, which integrated with Penn Course Review's API. And our key features are a smart GPT recommendation system, which means you can select courses and ask ChatGPT to definitively give you which course it thinks you should take. Secondly, we have the persistent course selections, meaning you can save and compare multiple classes from history. And thirdly is the radar graph comparison, which helps to visualize courses on top of each other side by side using radar charts.
Some other features we implemented was a single course GPT summary, which is basically allowing a user to get a personalized breakdown of a course's style, rigor, and audience. Another key feature was implementing a tabular metric comparison that's on top of our radar chart. This allows users to visualize and compare and contrast different courses and different styles and sort of, making that process a little bit easier for them. Another feature was managing the OpenAI key in a more secure way. We can now store our own API keys without any backend required. Um, Another thing we implemented was making our pop-up UI a little bit more responsive, more mobile aware, and resizable based on how it interface with tabs and collapsibles. Um, we also had to do some error handling with regards to our UI. Again, to be a little bit more um, specific about which ways we use GPT, we had three different prompts. One of them was basically answering the question, which course should I take? Where the user would select a couple of courses um, that they have saved. In case they haven't selected a course, or um, yeah, in that case, if they haven't selected a course, we would prompt the user to select a course. This would be an error message, for example. Another GPT use case would be summarizing a course, as we mentioned before. You would need to have at least one course selected for this. If you haven't, you're again prompted by our UI to go and select at least one course. And our last GPT use case was a little bit more elaborate and lengthier. You would have at least two courses selected, and it would basically go and ask chat, how would you compare those two, three, four, and more courses and a bunch of aspects. Here, if you don't have at least two courses selected in your history of selected courses, again, you're prompted by the UI to go and select the respective courses you want to compare and contrast. Um, Another thing we had to implement was, making that transition from Markdown to HTML rendering. A lot of the outputs we are getting from GPT were in Markdown format, and this was not showing very visually appealing in our, Chrome extension. So we had to render into HTML. That was definitely a little bit of a challenge, but we managed to implement that as well. And last but not least, we actually tried to implement some savable notes as well in case the user wants to run back to them after they've saved the course.
In terms of architecture, this sort of looks like a threefold structure. So for the front end, we were working primarily in React and TypeScript. Then data-wise, our data was derived from Penn Course Review's API, as well as OpenAI, their API with GPT 4.0. And then lastly, the Chrome extension layers, which was just scripting and Chrome storage. And then challenges and lessons that we learned along the way. Um, well, firstly is edge cases. So missing prerequisites that a student might have that should probably be considered in their course selection process, was a challenge for us. And then data in the Penn Course Review API was also difficult. And then lastly, incomplete inputs, and then React state management with multiple course sections. That's pretty self-explanatory. And learning to work with OpenAI's API was also quite tricky. And to have clean UX that requires multiple iterations. So that proved to be challenging, but was something that we were able to overcome. And then also version control with multiple branches was difficult in GitHub, but especially when you were developing as a team, but that was also something that we were able to figure out along the way.
Yeah, so this was our Google Chrome extension. We also have a demo linked here. People can access it through our slides or through our submission, where we go into a more deep dive of what we implemented and we showcase each of the features that we talked about in more detail. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your attention.